Two Wheels this week, Jeff brings us some more history from the Ducati Museum in Italy. And our learner riders eventually hit the open road. And by popular request, a technical tip in which Jeff shows us the correct way to adjust a chain. But first, I go to meet some stars of the future. This is Darley Moor Race Track in Derbyshire, on a very cold and extremely wet Saturday morning. Far from ideal conditions for displaying your skills on a motorcycle. But today, there are some very determined and extremely competent young riders, split into three groups: Production 125s, GP 125s and 600cc's. But this is no ordinary race meeting. Sounds intriguing, but let's find out more. Now Dave, the last time I was here at Darley Moor and we met, it was a junior track training school. I hope I've said that right.
Yes,
yeah,
you got it right.
It's juniors again today, but it looks a bit more serious, this.
It is,
So
yes.
What's it all about, this then?
It's not really connected with the school. It's not connected with the school at all, really. The ACU, the Auto Cycle Union, after a long, long time of deliberation, have decided that the time is right now to produce a centre of excellence for road racing. In other words, taking the best young talent we've got in the UK and offering them coaching and training and trying to produce some British world champions again.
Right, and you've got a good turnout, 30 odd I think today.
About 38 young riders aged between 11 and 16. Yeah,
Right.
I think we've probably got the majority of the ones competing in the UK at the moment.
Yeah.
And we've got some real talents here today. It's very impressive.
They're all on their own machines, are they, these guys?
Yes,
So
yes.
what's the prerequisites for coming here today then?
They have to be between 11 and 16, as I mentioned. They have to have completed at least 5 road race meetings, and that's it really. They come along, we give them a couple of sessions on circuit and put it all together and see which ones are the best ones and select them.
Right, and you've got a team of assessors going round and watching them and
Yeah, we've got the assessors we've got today are the two main ones we've got: a guy called Mark Phillips, an ex-British champion, and Matt Llewellyn, who's just finished second in the British Superstock Championship, who's a real top national rider. Mick Boddice himself, who's got 30 odd years of racing at the highest level, a guy called Jeff Tansley, and a guy called, let me get his name right, Mick Walker, who is renowned for sponsoring and bringing on young riders, including James Toseland.
Excellent, right, yeah. So, because there's nowhere at the moment, if a young rider wants to ride, he can't go and practice and he can't get training, can he?
No. See, one of the things we will be offering them that is quite unique is the ability to come to a circuit and practice. We'll be taking them to places like Brands Hatch, Donington Park, for quality track time with Mark and Jeff as instructors.
Excellent.
Working on their own strengths and weaknesses, so we will be giving them what they can't get elsewhere.
Excellent. Well, yeah, it's sadly lacking, isn't it, in the junior type of the sport. So how many are you going to pick from your 38? How many
We're
happy
looking for 12
faces?
today.
So you'll have 12 very happy youngsters here
Yes,
today.
yeah, we were looking for 12 or should we say 26 disappointed faces. And from those we'll interview them, and we're looking for 8 riders this year. But it's not the end of the road. The important thing is, for those that have been here today, we now know them, we've met them, we've spoke to them, we've seen them ride. Next season the selection process will take the form of going to race meetings in disguise, incognito, looking at the lads riding and how they behave in the paddock, and we will be inviting riders to join the academy rather than selecting them like this. So the guys that have been on this academy today on the selection day have got a head start. Right,
it's a 3-year training programme, if you like, isn't it? So after 3 years, you'll be like you'll have a new bunch coming through every year, will you?
Yeah,
That's
every
the
year.
idea,
So we'll have it in 3 years' time. We'll have a year graduate and another year. What we'll have for them at the graduation yet remains to be seen. One of the things we are looking for, we've got lots of exciting offers in the pipeline. The Suzuki Grand Prix team have contacted us and said they will do everything they can to help us and support us.
Wow.
And you never know, there might be a scholarship ride in 3 years' time.
Excellent.
Dorna, the Grand Prix organisers, have offered us a wildcard entry at the British Grand Prix in 3 years' time.
Right. So
we just need to find the money to finance it.
There's an awful lot to go for these youngsters, don't you?
I think it's one of the most exciting things that's happened in British road racing for a long, long time.
Well, I would agree, and I would say if they can do it today in these conditions, they could do it anywhere.
It's a great leveler, isn't it?
It is. The one thing you can't organise is the weather.
That's right. And I mean, I think fate said it was going to rain today.
Yeah.
And it sorts the men from the boys, because a true champion can go well in any conditions.
That's right.
The worse the better in a way, because it gives him a chance to prove himself.
Right. Great. Well, you've got a lot of organising still to do.
You.
I'll let you get on with it. Good luck and well done.
Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.
And there'll be more from the young stars at Darley Moor after the break. Right now we'll zoom across to Italy and meet up with Jeff in the Ducati Museum.
Now think Ducati and you should think desmodromic valve gear, and here's a picture of it, and here is also a picture of the man, Fabio Taglioni. He's the man who designed this valve gear. He actually got the idea off Mercedes, but nevertheless he was dissatisfied with the quality of the steel used in valve springs, because valves used to bounce a lot then at high revs. With a desmodromic system, which is from the Greek, which actually means running or controlled running, you've got 3 cams on this one, and the whole valve operation is all mechanical, no springs here. You get 1 cam that opens the valve, another cam that closes it. This was a 3 camshaft system as per this engine over here. As you can see, 1, 2, 3 cams now, but they've now modified that to just 2 overhead cams. Now we're coming to some recognisable races. 1972 saw us with this, in this disco colour silver. 1972 it was when Paul Smart won at Imola on this one, 750cc Desmo V-twin. First major race victory for them, but it looks quite the business, doesn't it? Looks a bit quaint now, but nevertheless, if you move on a few years to 1978, when the late great Mike Hailwood won the Formula 1 TT, the F1 TT, on his magic comeback to the Isle of Man on this one, 900cc. And of course you could still buy Mike Hailwood replicas on this one, and if you're very lucky you could pick one up today. But a really historic bike. Now in this Hall of Fame you've got a whole range of races, you can see them here. This is really fantastic stuff, but it brings us up to 1980 when we get this, the first of the belt driven bikes. This is developed from the Panther engine, 600cc, and so you've got the new belt driven V-twin engine. And you can also see the first of the open trellis frames. Can you see this design here? Carried through, of course, to the later bikes. Now 1987 saw us with this one, the 851. A really significant bike. The first development of the 888 and eventually ending up in 916 land. First of the liquid cooled bikes, so still a 90-degree engine, 4-valve Desmo, but liquid cooled. Then you come along here to 1990. Now this is really recognisable. I had an 888 SP4. And you can see all the trends of that. I can recognise the frame is really the standard trellis frame. Very little change, so I can recognise the old rattling clutch there. Coming along to this one, 1992, another development and a further development. And I think this one is actually Doug Poland's bike. Yes, Doug it says up there. So this was a World Superbike winner. Then here's another one, Raymond Rush. This one's actually got twin fillers on the top and a load of signatures over there. It's a shame really that I can't do all these justice really in this museum, but there's so much information here that the poor old head just won't take it all. Now as I've been talking about all the bikes out there, and I've been mentioning desmodromic valve gear, 4-valve heads and all the rest of it. Now the guy who developed the engine after the first desmodromic was Massimo Bordi, and he developed the 4-valve heads and further desmodromic valve gear. But seeing this engine in all its component parts, you can see it in all its glory. This is in fact a race engine, a 996 engine. See the massive injectors up there, and just as they had on World Superbike engines, fuel injectors at the top spraying into there. But in here you can see all the parts, massive pistons with very short skirts, and the valves in there, you can clearly see the valves. And on the top here you can actually see the desmodromic valve gear. Now Pierre Terreblanche, the man who designed the 916, that beautiful bodywork, he also designed this, which is the Super Mono Racer 550cc. And if you look at the styling cues on that one, the fairing there and the tank, those have been repeated on the 900 SS road bike. But over here is the engine from that. Now the interesting thing with this engine is, it's the V-twin engine with the back cylinder just cut off, literally. They've even kept the conrod in there and put a link shaft in there so they can keep the balance right. So you just got the forward cylinder bored out to 550cc. And what an engine that has proved to be. Now bringing us right up to date, 1994 saw our man Carl Fogarty on a 916 to win his first World Superbike Championship. In fact, the engine was 950cc. In 1995, the engine had grown to 955 and Carl won again. 1996 saw Troy Corser win again on a 996. 1997 we got here a 748. Casoli won the 748 Supersports title on that in 97. 1998, Carl came back on a 996 and won again. and then in 1999 he won his 4th World Championship, again on a Ducati 996. Now this might be a museum, but that doesn't mean everything in it is old. That could apply to me too, couldn't it? Because this is their brand new V-twin engine. 996 again, but they've slimmed down the heads, still desmodromic, and they've also changed the valve angle. This is from 60 degree to 20 degree. Now you haven't even seen this engine in a bike yet. This is for the 2001 models, so think yourself very lucky. Well, that's it, from condensers to world superbikes in just 75 years. I wonder what the next 75 years are going to bring.
Well, we'll never know, but in part 2, we'll be bringing you more of our learners out on the open road, a top tip from Jeff, and more of the young stars at Darley Moor. Welcome back to Darley Moor, where it's still raining. And it's not just the young riders who are struggling with the conditions on the day. My brolly seems to have developed a mind of its own. But during a break for lunch, I managed to catch up with a couple of famous faces. Without doubt, one of the most difficult jobs here today is to assess these youngsters and to pick the 12 that are going to win, if you like, because I suppose it's a bit of a competition in the end of the day. And two of the assessors, Matt Llewellyn and Mark Phillips, both racers who we know very well. Matt, how difficult is this to choose?
Yeah, I think there's like 38 people out there today that are here to obviously come on the course and for us to have a look at. It's quite difficult. There's quite a few people that are standing out at the moment. Right. We're like halfway through the day as such, so I've got this afternoon to assess them even more. So we'll just see what the conditions won't improve now. So it's just some of the lads might not have been here before, so they might get to grips with the circuit a bit better.
It's a good leveler this rain, isn't it? Mark, let me ask you, what are you looking for on the circuit? Because that must be the most important thing.
Yeah, definitely. The most important thing is what they're doing out, what the lads are doing out on the circuit. And like Matt said, already this morning it's very difficult conditions, but you can just see there's a number of riders what are just shining above the others, and hopefully, like Matt said, the circuit's not going to improve at all. But we're looking at what they're doing this afternoon and see what we can do. What are you looking for? You're not looking for ultimate speed. You're looking for smoothness, lines. Well, it's important. I mean, you may have the fastest guy out on the circuit, but he might be on a brand new bike with more power than the guy on an old bike. But the guy on the old bike might be better in some ways. Yeah. You got to look at what bike they're riding, what age they are, and there's a number of areas. And it's not the out and out. We're looking for the fastest really, but there's sometimes the guy on a slower bike who's going speed could be better than the guy on a quick bike. So you got to look at a few areas and then judge who's the best. Really.
Look at the big picture and look at the guy who's got the potential rather than the speed at the moment.
That's right. Yeah.
And you spent a lot of time, Matt, haven't you, walking around the paddock here, talking to the youngsters and the parents as well.
Yeah, we've done a bit of paddock assessing, as you could say. Yeah. Some of the lads come over real well, to be honest. Like 12 to 15 to 16, and they speak real well. And you talk about a bike setup, they know a bit about the bikes. Yeah. They look well in the leathers and present it well. So yeah.
Yeah. So they've got to be media friendly, I suppose. Is that the idea?
Yeah. I mean, if they can start doing that at an early age, it's be all good for the future, really. Right.
And have you made your decisions yet, Mark? Do you know?
We've got Matt and myself have got about 12 people on our list, and we're sort of going to go look at them in a minute or so and see how they go in this afternoon session. And we've got a good 4 or 5 what we're really pleased with, haven't we, Matt?
Yeah. There's like half a dozen people that really shine through. So.
Well, 12 people at the end of the day will love you two, and there'll be 26 that hate you.
Bribes accepted.
I mean, it's so difficult, choosing everyone on a day like it's a very difficult day. But at the end of the day, we just got to, it's the same playing field for everyone. So you just want to shine on the day, really.
Excellent. Well, I'll let you get on with it, and I don't envy you.
Cheers.
There are some very, very brave young riders out there. I know lads that don't go this fast and don't lean over this far when it's bone dry. I'd take my hat off to every one of them. They're fantastic. Well, that's just about it. All the riding is now finished, and I believe all the decision making is now completed. Somewhere here there are 12 happy smiling faces, and that 12 will be interviewed, and that will be reduced further down to just 8 riders. Those 8 riders will be given all the training that they need, and hopefully in the not too distant future we'll start producing the results which we know they're well capable of. Some fantastic riding here today, absolutely wonderful, very, very impressive. Now I just need to go and find a dry pair of socks.
Now, chain adjustment, I can't emphasise how important it is. It could be fatal if you get it wrong. On all bikes, you'll see a little sticker up there giving you the chain slack, or it'll be in your handbook. This one on the CBR6 says 30mm, and it's between sprockets, between the gearbox sprocket and the rear wheel sprocket. So it's important you pick the midpoint, which is round about there. Now see that one? That seems, well, not far off, about right. But what you can do, stick the engine into gear, into first gear, and you watch the difference. At the moment when I do that, the top run is moving a little bit. Push it backwards, which tightens up that one. See the increased slack there? That is more like a full 30mm. Now you need some clearance to allow the suspension to work properly, but you don't want too much. Now some sports bikes, the manual will actually say, test it when it's off its stand, or it's actually got the full load on the wheels. Did you see the way the chain got tighter then? And so see how that's tightened up. So it's important you know what you're checking, if the clearance is on a centre stand, paddock stand, or whether it's both wheels on the ground. Now as this has got the luxury of a centre stand, we're going to use the centre stand. And why not? And something I should have said before, spin the back wheel to find the tightest point of the chain, because sometimes the sprockets run out, or the chain itself, if it's an old one, has got a tight spot in, so get the tightest part. Get your ruler, or you can mark off, as I've done, a tyre pressure gauge, which I always carry with me on the bike. A couple of bands on there, giving me the clearance that I want, so you can just put that against the swing arm in the centre and just waddle it up and down and think, yes, I'm okay. Another little tip for you, if you're stuck on the side of the road, get a screwdriver, a decent sized one, and just put it under one of the sprockets there and the chain, and just move the back wheel like so. As long as the chain doesn't meet up with the sprocket the other side, that'll give you automatically round about 30mm. It's a good get you home tip, and it does ensure that the chain's not too tight. Assuming you want to adjust it, these are the adjusters, similar on most bikes. It's most important that you keep both adjusters the same length. So this is showing 3 divisions this side, 3 divisions the other. Screw them out by an equal amount as you screw them in to pull that wheel back. If you don't, you'll skew the tyre off to one side, and then your wheels will be out of line, and then you will be in trouble.
As you may remember, this is where we left our 2 learner motorcyclists last time, venturing out onto the open road. Of course, under the expert guidance of motorcycle instructor Andy Dawes. The 3 of them are in fact in radio contact. Andy can speak to both the pupils, giving them instructions and directions. They can hear exactly what he's saying, but unfortunately they can't answer back. They'll negotiate left and right turns and hopefully put into practice everything that they've learnt in the car park. They'll experience every kind of road condition, everything from back streets to major dual carriageways, busy junctions and roundabouts. There are actually 2 pupils on this CBT course, and they'll take it in turns to lead this mini convoy. Andy, the instructor, will always sit in the middle. Forward observation and, of course, driving within the speed limit are 2 of the main factors that Andy will be looking for. From time to time, Andy will stop the 2 pupils for a little chat. He'll offer some advice and further instruction, and of course ask them to negotiate some of the manoeuvres that they will be required to do on a full test. This is of course the U-turn. Must be done feet up and without stopping, and certainly without falling off. Another important manoeuvre that must be mastered correctly is the emergency stop. the pupils must perform safely for 2 hours on the road. That is the basic minimum legal requirement. And only when Andy is happy will he actually sign the CBT certificate. So around 2 hours later, it's fingers crossed and back to the centre. So here we are back at the test centre. The tea's very nice as well. I'm nice and warm. These two are freezing because they've been out on a bike all day. CBT now completed, hopefully to a successful conclusion. Let's find out. Andy, I see you've got a certificate there, all signed and completed. Does that mean total success?
Yes, he's passed.
Yeah.
Quite happy with him.
Were you quite happy with him? Was there anything in particular that you had to keep pulling him up on?
No, just the general things that most people sort of fall down on. Forward observation and watching speed limits. Tend to get a little fast occasionally.
Bit of a boy racer, is he?
I don't think so. Just a typical car driver, I think.
Typical car driver, I like it. Right. Neil, I believe that's yours now. A completed certificate. CBT pass. That means you can go on to part 2. CBT, was it everything you thought it would be? Was it harder?
It was a little more difficult than I first thought, but I feel really safe and confident on the roads now. Yeah.
There was more in it than you thought there was?
There was a few more things in it, like the slow control, things like that. Yeah, it's never done anything like that before.
Right. Okay, so that means you can you go and do your part 2 now, and you're going for the direct access test. That means once you've passed it, hopefully, which you are going to pass it, you'll be able to ride anything. So now you're going to move on to a Suzuki GS 500. How do you feel about that?
Can't wait. Can't wait to get out road on that.
Itching to go, eh, now?
Oh, definitely.
Big bike, you know.
Well, not too big.
Very confident. Right, well, good luck, and we'll see how you go on the 500 next week.
Okay.
And on Two Wheels next week, Jeff concludes his visit to Ducati with a trip round the famous Italian factory. And I chat with Michaela Fogarty. She tells me of her new job as a roving ambassador for CCM.